for coming on with us today. Much appreciated.
No problem.
Just want to get your thoughts really on sort of junior coaching and how you maybe would deliver a session, and maybe getting more, advocating more professionals to go into a junior or group coaching setting as opposed to individual lessons, or certainly have a mix of the two. So what's your, over your career thus far, what's your kind of junior coaching look like?
So yeah, I basically started my first full-time teaching job was back in 2013 at a place called Alton Hall. And I was very fortunate at the time to be working with a guy called Phil Akers, who already had a fairly established junior program. I think he had about 75 kids at the time. And when I joined, I was obviously pretty keen to get involved. So over the next 2 or 3 years, we built that up to, I think it was 122 kids it was, when he then left. He moved jobs, went down to the Belfry in 2016. I then continued with the help of another couple of lads up there, Tom Huttonen, Scott McGovern, Lee Morrisroe, and before lockdown, we built it up to, I think our highest was about 167 kids we had coming every week. So that was, yeah, I think the highest we had was something like 17 classes across the week, with between 6 and 10 children in the class. We were fortunate with the facility we had there. It was a covered driving range, heaters, lights, etc. But yeah, it was very, very much based around, we developed this like person first, athlete second, golfer third little hashtag, which was pretty much, so I don't know if you've ever seen that branded about, but we like to try and claim that was our hashtag. Person first, athlete, golfer. Person first, athlete second, golf third. I'm sure there's like a tweet back in 2016 where we fired it out. And anyway, that's our little claim that I mean, it's not that original, but we were banging that hashtag for quite a while. But yeah, look, it's based around the idea that a child comes to golf and, it's not just about golf. It is about helping them as an individual, build confidence, build character. Then we like to introduce the physical skills, because one of the things that I would always say is, if you get a child at 6 or 7 years old, the reality that they're going to stay into golf or stay in golf until they're 17, 18, the reality is they're not. There's going to be a lot of children that are going to dip in and dip out. You might have a child that comes for 4 or 5 years, and he gets to 11, he goes to secondary school, he starts playing rugby, whatever it is, and they will fall out of golf. And that isn't always a massive problem for us, as long as in our time we've helped them build a little bit of confidence, they've made some friends, they've had an enjoyable time. But as far as the physical skills are concerned, if a child at 11 years old is starting a new sport, if they have a good base of physical skills, they've got a bit of a head start, as opposed to the kid that's 11 years old and has never really done much physical activity. So that was one of the things that we sort of believed in. Like, I mean, ultimately, a 10-year-old child, they're not athletes, they're children. So it's not about creating an athlete at 10 years old, but it's more about creating athletic skills. And it's not just about, if children can move, they can swing the golf club better, which is what, there's a message out there that, the children have to be able to move and then they can swing better and they can get better golf swings. And I sort of get that, but that really wasn't the sort of angle we were at. It was like 50% that angle, yes, but then also just trying to provide them with a good base. If they did transfer to other sports, or if later in life, physically active, physically literate people, generally healthier lifestyles, let's say. So that was the sort of first 2 little pillars of it, creating, character, etc., creating some physical skills. And then naturally, we're golf coaches, so we are going to provide them with some golf skills as well. But that was, however crazy it sounds, that was genuinely like the third pillar in terms of, we will provide those first 2 things. But then if that child does want to excel in golf and continue with golf and progress with their golf, then we can also provide that for them. But I think the point is, it wasn't golf first. as crazy as that sounds, you know, that was how we sort of ran our program. And to be fair, I think that, you know, the results we got, we did quite well on retention. We kept a lot of kids in the game for a long time. As I say, we had natural dropout rates, but I think to me, well, you know, another little saying. So, you know, I often say to the parents, you know, if a child enjoys it, they'll come back. If they come back, they'll get better. And I think a lot of parents would often look at getting better first, but if they're not enjoying it, they're not going to come back. And if they don't come back, they're not going to get better. So that was really our aim, you know, the big cliche of enjoyment, getting children to enjoy, getting them to look forward to coming to golf. And then if they look forward to coming to golf, well, number one, it makes your job easy or easier because they're happy to be there. And then number two, when they keep on enjoying it, they keep on coming back, and then over time they get better. So, you know, hopefully in a nutshell there, that was sort of the ethos that we believed in, and the ethos that we attempted to deliver. And like I say, I feel like we did pretty well at it for a few years. So yeah, to answer the question.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I mean, you're right in what you say there. You, like anything, if you don't enjoy it, if they don't enjoy doing it, and I think the first experience have a golf facility can be quite a daunting one, can't it? They might have come from never playing before, they've rocked up. You might be the very first person they've ever met in a golf environment. You don't get that opportunity twice, do you, to make sure that they feel confident? I mean, I try and get to know their names as quickly. I'm not great with names, to be honest, but I'm doing my utmost to try and get to know their names very quickly, and just, you're exactly right. Get them there, get them enjoying the game first, and then take the golf skills from that point. You still there, mate?
Sorry,
You've gone
I
black.
am sorry,
There we
mate.
go. There we go. Improving a little bit.
Someone was ringing me and it blanked out. I'm still here.
Moving on then to more about yourself and doing junior coaching. Obviously, like much like kind of like our journey a little bit, you had a really sort of good pro you worked under, which I think for some people is important to say. You know, we had a bit. I certainly had a lot of guidance in helping me with junior coaching at the start. What was your first experience? So, like for example, you've got a group in front of you on your own. You might have 10 or 12 kids there. How did you feel going into your, I mean, you might even remember it, your first ever session? What were you, I want to try and make it a little bit more comfortable that everyone doesn't know the answers to everything. How did you feel when that first group of children was put in front of you and right, off you go, Tom, crack on?
No, I think to be fair, actually, so Phil, I sort of knew Phil from uni. So when I started the role at Alton, like I knew him already. And it was sort of November 2013 when I started. So I sort of I do remember quite vividly just going up there, and it was quite a cold morning. And for the first sort of couple of months, I sort of shadowed him. So he invited me into his sessions, and I sort of worked alongside him. And then I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was like, you know, maybe after the first couple of weeks or something, he just said to me, he's like, mate, you got to be a bit more enthusiastic. Like, you got to remember, these are 6-year-old children. You know, you've got to provide the energy a little bit more. And I'll always remember him saying that. And I think, you know, I think to be honest, that says a lot. Junior coaching isn't for everyone. And I think that's an important part. There's some people that are cut out for it. There's some people that aren't. You have to provide the energy. You have to be the clown. You have to put on that face, and sort of get on their level. And I think, so, you know, without trying to put certain people off, you know, everyone's got their strengths and weaknesses, and you have to decide, look, is this for me? But if it is for you and you want to invest your time and education into junior coaching, you know, again, another good piece of advice I would try and give is just try and see golf through a child's eyes. And I think that's one thing that I learned quite quickly, in terms of, if you have a 6-year-old child, it's just good enough sometimes for them that they're in a bay hitting the ball. If they hit it 1 yard, if they hit it 10 yards, if they hit it 50 yards, you know, whatever they do, it doesn't matter. It's just good enough for them. They're happy enough just being there. And I think that's one thing that I sort of learned quite early, was we've got to alter our expectations and sort of see it through the child's lens. And then with parents, like what we tried to do. We tried to sort of talk to parents quite a lot, keep them involved, hopefully help them relay the message that we were relaying, but also try and get them to understand a little bit about exactly what I've just said. You know, don't feel like your child has to hit the ball every time for them to be, you know, happy. They don't. And if they're not hitting the ball, then that's okay. You might think that's not a great thing, but they might be just pretty happy to be messing around, picking the nose, looking at the airplane in the sky, you know, talking to the mate. You know, that's sort of how kids are. And I think it's challenging sometimes with parents because they're paying money and they obviously have a expectation or a vision of what does a golf lesson look like, what does improvement look like. And hang on a minute, my child's been coming for 4 or 5 weeks and he's still missing the ball, and you know. But I think that's just down to the coach to talk to the parents, explain to the parents what's going on, and you know, just manage the expectations and educate the parents. Like, went through a stage of, you know, parent education, and I know there's some people that sort of say, I don't know, we shouldn't educate parents. We don't have to educate parents, and maybe education is a patronizing or slightly formal word, but I would still say that communication with parents is important, and having the conversations with the parents, and you know, just basically trying to explain your ethos to them so they know what to expect. If they're bringing a kid to your session on a Saturday morning, what should they expect? They're not, like, for me, they'd never see the kids lined up or gripping it, posture, aim, do this, do that. You know, it's not, I'm not really a dictator in that environment, but some parents might expect, you know, a little bit like at school, they all sit down, teachers at the front, write on the board, do this, do that. You know, they might be expecting that from a golf lesson. And if they're there for a couple of weeks and they're not seeing that and thinking, hang on a minute, what's going on? But, you know, that's down to you to hopefully educate them, or, you know, however you might phrase that. But, you know, what we did back in the day, we had like a little parents handbook, and we used to give any child that signed up, we'd give the parents this little handbook, and it'd just go through a few of our ideas, a few of our beliefs. And, you know, I'd say 90-95% of parents, you know, took that on board, and we're happy with that. And, you know, you get the odd parent that doesn't really believe in what you do, and you know, you've just got to turn around and say, look, I'm not that guy. You know, you better go in somewhere else. And whether that is, you know, that is a unfortunate reality that you are then denying a child an opportunity. However, that parent will take that child somewhere else and they'll get another opportunity elsewhere. Is that right? Is that wrong? But, you know, I think sometimes you've not got to take it to heart. You know, you've got to stand in your corner, stand for what you believe in, and ultimately, over time, you hope that you get your attention, you grow your program, you deliver good sessions, parents are happy, kids are happy, but you can't please everyone. And ultimately, you are not there to bring up that child. You're an exceptionally small part in their journey, and you've just got to do your best with that small hour or two you have a week. So I think there was a fine line between, look, you know, you're going to give the parents your best advice, you're going to give them your best opinions, but if they don't want to take it on board, then, you know, that's their choice. That they're the dad, aren't they? So I think I used to take things to heart quite a little bit early on. You know, like I'd take a lot of things home with me, and I'd be thinking about, oh, maybe I should have done this, maybe I should have done that. Why is that not kid? You know, he's not getting better, and and all you can do is your best, isn't it? You know, and if they don't want to listen to you, the parents, then they don't want to listen to you. That's just sort of how it is.
It is hard. It is hard with yeah, you're right. Educating is probably not the right word. It's just them understanding. You know, they come into you set your stall out early, don't you? You know, the first session that they come to, parents as well. This is my format. This is how this is going to work. You know, it's fine if you want to dip in and out. That's absolutely fine. If you don't feel like this is right for you, that's fine. We're not, you know, we're not forcing you to do it. This is your choice. But this is how we're going to run our sessions. And as soon you're totally right. People left before, or some people left and they wanted something a little bit different. You used to think, oh God, have I done enough for that child? you get a little bit, not you do get a bit cross and frustrated because you think, oh, why are they leaving? What have I done wrong? And you kind of ask for a bit of feedback. And but yeah, you get to a stage, probably with age a little bit, and you learn to, okay, that's not a problem. I'll make sure that slot's, that slot's available now. I'll be proactive and getting someone else into that slot. And as you quite rightly said there, if it's fun first, there'll be a time if they get to 13, 14, they want to take their games a bit more seriously. They might play a variety of sports, which, as you've alluded to there, we're advocates of. You've got to play a lot of sports at a young age to get your body ready for whatever sports you decide to try and specialise in, if they do going forwards. But you can only do what you can do for that individual, and if that doesn't fit in with how a parent perceives a golf lesson to be, that's fair enough. So yeah, I'm waffling on a little bit there. So you talk about retention, massively important in the junior game, isn't it? You're going to have people that dip in and out potentially. How did you used to run your programs? Not to ask monetary wise, but was it kind of pay? Did you have pay and play sessions? Did you have monthly fees? Just if anyone's trying to build kind of a business of how they want it to work, what did yours look like?
Yeah, so we basically just ran it termly. So 38, I think 39 weeks of the year the kids are at school, aren't we? So we ran our program for 38 weeks, and then over summer we always just had like an extra week off. As potentially after like 6 weeks of summer camps, it was like, right, I just need a week off before we restart the sessions again. So yeah, we basically ran it in term blocks. Now I know that like the direct debit system is a big thing now, and people are getting them on subscriptions, and I wouldn't sort of disagree with that. I think that's a good way to do things. It's just never how we did it. But I think, sorry, just going on to the retention, basically you want to try and offer as much as you can for that money. So let's say they just paid 6 weeks, they paid for like a 6-week block, whatever it was. If you can keep in touch with the parents through that 6 weeks, you might send them a weekly email that just says, oh, this week we're going to be doing this. You might potentially over the year try and arrange a couple of social evenings, go bowling, go for a pizza. We used to run competitions as regular as we could, but you can only do so much with your time. At the place that I was at, we were a resort, so we didn't really have the typical golf club membership where we had like the old boys who might volunteer and run the junior section, etc. So competitions for us were a little bit limited, but we would run, we'd run the odd Sunday afternoon competition, just literally charge them a very minimal fee, just to try and get a little bit of a prize pot going. So I think, in terms of that retention, it's the old adage, isn't it? Trying to provide as much value as possible for that fee. And it's not just your 1 hour golf lesson. It might be your 1 hour golf lesson and then a little bit of communication, newsletter, blah, blah, blah. Just trying to make the parents feel special, make the kids feel special. We'd always give them sweets on the last week. Last week of term, sweet week, play some games, ultimately, however crude that sounds, you're in the business game. It's a business. You want them to come back, so you've got to give them a reason to come back. So we're not just giving them sweets to make them come back, of course not. But I think sometimes that little buzz around the last week, it was like, oh, it's last week, it's sweet weeks. We'd do like a team championship or something. So we'd have, all our sessions were based around games and points scoring, let's say. But on the last week, we'd always make like a big deal. We'd get a leaderboard up and we'd say, look, we're going to split up into twos and we'll have a little bit of a competition, have some sweets after, have a little bit of fun, blah, blah, blah. So they always sort of look forward to that last week. And then obviously, if they have a great time on the last week, they're more willing to come back the next term. So yeah, it probably sounds a little bit more brutal than what it actually was. But ultimately, you're in the business game. You want them to come back. You've got to keep them happy. You've got to keep the parents happy. Keep doing what you're doing. Try not to get lazy with things. And I think what just sort of sidetracked here, but one bit of advice. We potentially got to the stage where we were doing a lot of group classes, and sort of like weeks were going by, and we sort of were like almost like in a little bit of a rut with it, like in terms of just sort of churning out similar stuff every week. And You know, all it took was like, right, we need some fresh ideas, we need some new games. Just sit down with someone. Obviously, I had a few lads working with us, which was great. We just brainstormed for 2-3 ideas, for 2-3 hours, create some new games, and then it almost re-energizes you, and it also re-energizes the kids. You know, because when you're busy, you do get, you know, stuck in the rut a little bit, and you know, you've got to take that step back, haven't you? And just, you know, it's amazing if you had 3 hours with 3 of you around a table, how many funky ideas you could come up with. And then
absolutely.
number one, you're actually a little bit more excited because you're like, oh, buzzing, I've got these new ideas. And then also the kids are like, oh, buzzing, I haven't done this before. So yeah, I think it's, you know, you're playing a fine line, I think, between like the business side and the looking after the child side. You know, ultimately we're trying to look after children, we're trying to enrich them, give them good experiences, etc., etc. But it's also business as well. So, you know, you've got to have a little bit of a business head on, as well as just, you know, having the crack with a load of kids. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's exactly what we do. I totally agree with what you're saying. You know, when you're in that setting and you're delivering your coaching, as you quite rightly said, you're almost I feel like sometimes, especially with the young kids, you're almost a child entertainer. You know, you've got to get them on board, you've got to get them enjoying it, and then but when that session's finished and you might have a little bit of downtime. You know, I do a lot of I mean, you probably say tons of admin midweek, might be early in the morning or last thing at night. That, you know, you center it. It is a business. And I think people do have to realize that. Yes, we love what we do. We love delivering junior coaching, but we work on, you know, filling group classes up. That's enough for us. It's massively a numbers game. You know, we have to hit a certain quota every month to make sure that we're keeping our head above water, things like that. So it's you have to be able to dip in and out, don't you? You have to be able to be very jovial and very sort of your jester sort of thing in the sessions, especially to young children. But then once you get out of that setting, you've got to get you have got to put two different hats on. I think you've got to get your business hat on and work out your numbers. I think a lot of people don't really do that. They might see 10 kids in a group, great, but how am I gonna hold on to these children? How am I gonna retain? And I think you said about sitting down and brainstorming. The one thing that I've found doing a few more chats with different people and actually trying to build a little bit of a junior golf community has been the amount of things I've actually learned just talking to people like yourself there about develop the person first, then an athlete, then a golfer. Silly little things that you learn through people, and I've already implemented into some of my other sessions, like going into schools. I was very much, well, I've got to do this week one, I've got to do this week two. I went into a school this morning and I set up 6 games and I said, right, guys, I only had a group of about 10, I think, maybe less. I think it was 8 today because 2 were off. Right, you can dip in and out of whatever you want to do. You can stay on that game for the whole session. You can do one shot on that game, one shot on that game. You can do whatever you want. And the engagement levels with that. And I would never have done that 6 months ago. It would have been, right, today we're doing X. I've set up a great session for you. I'm doing that. They will have fun doing it. But then one lad might go, oh, I really want to do long shots today. So I've got to a point where I've gone, okay, I'll set that game up, that game up, that. You can do whatever you want to do, and I'll help you with that part of your game. And that's been a real eye opener. So yeah, advocate brainstorming definitely, and being open to asking for suggestions. Like, we don't know all the answers. We might feel like we do a decent job in our field, but it's asking other people, isn't it? What do you do? What ideas do you do? What things are you doing? And trying to not just keep yourself in a small little community of 1 or 2, branch out a little bit and ask for help for people. And I found a lot of people that are way more higher up in the game of golf than I am have been really forthcoming in sharing ideas and sharing their thoughts and feelings on working with juniors, you know?
Yeah, I think naturally sometimes in the golf industry there's a little bit of an ego. You know, it's like it's a bit of an ego game. I'm the best coach. I'm this. I'm that. But and, you know, I think as I get older, you know, success leaves clues. So you know, go and find people that have been more successful than you, and go and get their help.
Yeah.
You know, you might as you better spending a month doing something than a year doing something. You know, find the route to success more quickly by speaking to other people. And I think it's interesting there what you say about the sessions. So potentially I haven't done a massive amount of schoolwork, but I imagine you've almost got to like pitch, you know, what you're going to do. And you know, maybe historically it might sort of be like, oh, week 1 grip, week 2 posture, week 3 stance. And like, I don't feel like a lot of the busy, successful golf coaches are pitching sessions like that anymore.
You
Like,
bore the kids to death doing that.
you can't, yeah. Anyone that knows anything about kids golf, you can't really be doing that. So, you know, just base it around skills. Like we used to SAS, that was our another little, got so many little phrases over the years. So strike, aim, speed, you know, and that was what we would often pitch the sessions at. We would say to the kids, all right, kids, this week we're working on strike. And we've got 6 stations, whatever they might be, and it's all based around striking the ball. Next week, aim, next week, speed. And then, you know, if you sort of drill that into the kids, as in like, right, there's these 3 main skills. They're the most important ones. Sometimes I need 1 of them. Sometimes I need 2 of them. Sometimes I need 3 of them. And you just get them talking about skills rather than techniques. Because again, I think we all agree that there's many different techniques that can create the same skill. So again, that was a little bit of a, you know, that evolved over time, that we became very much skill focused. And literally only not a week ago, sorry, about a month ago, at this new job that I'm in, this young girl had come for a session and she'd had a couple of sessions. She'd had a really good time, absolutely loving it. And it was the granddad, and he came up to me, he was like, so anyway, so when are you going to start teaching them about grip? And I was sort of like, well, so I sort of went into it, and, you know, you get those questions all the time, but, you know, again, I think you just sort of learn to develop answers for questions like this. You know, it's sort of like, if she's hitting the ball, is there anything wrong with the grip, sort of thing, you know? And
Mhm.
and that this guy, he's a granddad, he's a golfer for years, and he obviously thinks that everybody needs to have a grip and blah blah blah. And I appreciate that, and I totally get it. But you know, as you get a little bit wiser, you can work around those questions and just say, well, I'm not too sure grip's the most important at this stage, because actually, you know, she's having fun, and as she's holding it, she's actually holding it okay, you know, right hand at the bottom, left hand at the top, thumb straight down, you know, that's okay for me. So again, you're going on to that sort of expectation of parents and stuff. And what I would often say, to parents as well, is when they, you know, they might say, oh, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I'll just say to them, look, if we create some games and we create some challenges, and your child is successfully completing these challenges at a given rate, let's say, I haven't got a problem with that. But what might happen in a few weeks is, if they're really struggling, they'll then look to me and they'll ask me for help. And that's when I might tell them a little bit about grip or feet or, you know, whatever it is. But if I go in straight away, they're just going to be like, it's not always as engaging, is it? If I say to them, right, do this, do that. But if you set up a challenge for a child and they're at it for like 5 minutes and they can't do it, they'll sort of look around and they'll be like, can you give me some help? And then like at that point, you know, that's when you're in. When they are asking, yeah, when they are asking you for help, you are in, and you can then help them. But I think sometimes as coaches we'll go in with the solution first. So we will give the solution. Even in adults coaching, you know, we'll start off with the explanation, demonstration. So you're going in with the solution. Well, how's about you give them a problem first, see if they can find a solution, and if they can't find the solution, you can then help them with the solution, sort of thing. So it's again, that's how, you know, the setup of the session is very much based around games and challenges. Let them go off, try the games, try the challenges. Now, look, granted, you might get a kid who, you know, he's holding the club a little bit like hockey. He's got his left hand really sort of weak and around, and he's probably going to struggle to get the ball in the air holding it like that. So you might go in and just say, look, how's about you try this? Go on, I dare you. I dare you to try this for 2 or 3 shots. And again, it's the language that you use, isn't it? It's like, ooh, on then. How do you try to go on? Copy me, and just sort of going in softly rather than, all right, lad, right, put the hand there, put the hand there, and, you know, be slightly less abrupt and be a little bit more gentle with your approach. But I think, you know, just sort of going back to my story, when I came out of uni and went into the junior coaching, I was at the start, I was extremely hands off. It was like all just about like games, self discovery, play, all that sort of stuff. And there's this one particular girl that she had, she had a weak left hand grip, and I just left it because I just thought, no, she's fine, she's figuring it out, blah blah blah. And then as she got a little bit older, she really then struggled with getting it in the air, and the whole closed face, blah blah blah, whatever. She was so weak, she just couldn't hinge her wrists at all.
Yeah.
And I look back now, and I do think like I probably should have gone in a little bit earlier with her. So however much I am a massive advocate of, the self-discovery style, basically the laws of anatomy define certain things. So if there was one thing that I would look at in terms of a technique for all kids, over time, I'd be looking that they can hinge it in the backswing. Now, it's not going to be a specific hinge, and it's not going to be in an exact position, but those kids who have the weak left hand, club comes behind them, they can't get it up, it's bowled at the top. It's sort of going down like a golf technique and route here, which is not what I'm about with 8-year-old kids. But I think there's certain things that if you see that you should intervene, in my opinion. So it's a balance. And
balance.
However you intervene, that that's obviously the skill of the coach, isn't it? And a gentle intervention. But yeah, looking back now over the last 10, 12 years, when you see someone who's struggling in that backswing to hinge the club, I'm always like, right, come on, let's point the club to the sky, something like that, rather than just sort of leaving them to it, and then they're struggling and just can't get it in the air, and then they're leaning back and they're scooping, and all these things that we know as coaches that you wouldn't really talk to them about. So yeah, it's a hinge in the backswing and a follow through. Balance 1, 2, 3. That would be 2 technical points to try and, in a child sort of way, get them to achieve club to the sky, balance 1, 2, 3 in the finish position, show your shoe. There's another little phrase, 1, 2, show the shoe, to try and get the right foot off the floor.
You need to write a book, mate. You've got loads of these.
Mate, honestly, something that's been on my mind. Like, I used to be a bit of a Twitter ranter. So I've got my Twitter feed. If I go back, it's just full of stuff. So yeah, I might write a book at one stage. But yeah, I'm ranting again here. But I've got loads of little phrases and daft things.
What you say though about stepping in, it is finding the right time, and it's almost letting them have a go. And I do a lot around now. So say, as you say, you get the classic weak left hand bowed, can't get the thing in the air. Were you happy with that shot? Were you happy with that shot? Yeah, I was happy with that shot. It might have gone along the floor 30 yards. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. Okay, fine. Were you happy with that shot? After another couple of weeks, no, I want to see it go in the air. Okay, right, that's my time to then right, let's do this. So I try. It's hard if you've got a group of kids. It's hard to have that time, but sometimes you might deem a shot, well, that wasn't great, but they might think that's the best shot. That's what I'm trying to do. That's a shot I'm trying to hit. So yeah, it's sounding, and look, we all get it wrong, don't we? Blimey, the amount of times I should have intervened at times or not intervened. I was probably the other way round. I was very much at the start. My coach is very technically heavy based. He worked with a lot of good players, developed a lot of players to get in on tour. Some elite amateur golfers, like really good, Bavor, England, etc. So my remit probably was the opposite way. I've actually probably gone the opposite way from being a little bit too technical to actually trying to strip it back. So it's been an interesting journey. We all get to the same sort of point of, look, we need to be very hands off to start with, let them enjoy the game first. Everyone I've spoken to, whether they've come from a technical base or a self-discovery base, has all come kind of mediated back to that point.
Yeah, no, I think for me, you've just got to sit somewhere in the middle. You've got to be able to go either way, depending on who's in front of you. So I know there's people out there that are one way and are all about one way, and I don't know. I think you've got to be able to float between the two, and Yeah, the art of demonstration. That's another little thing. You know, kids learn from looking, don't they? The amount of kids that you see that it's like, I can't believe how similar his swing is to his dad's. It's
Yeah.
like, it is
Mm.
just uncanny. Like, you're like, mate, he swings it like his dad, whether it's good or bad. So yeah, I think lots of demonstrations is a good one. Less words and more just like copy this and try this. And yeah, it's all a big experiment, isn't it? Really,
It is. It is very much
because
so. Very much
there
so.
isn't one answer. Everything's
No, there's no
different.
straight line to it, is there? Right.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I'm going to start asking this question to everyone, trying to drum up the chat show a little bit. Who do you think I should maybe try and get on to the show that you might know that'll be a good one to get on?
I would say, mate, I'd get in touch with Phil Akers, only because Phil's journey is very much he's similar to mine. He's done a lot of kids coaching, a lot of group classes, but he, without putting words in his mouth, he's now very interested in like the sort of 15 plus age, in terms of the kids that are wanting to be elite
Elite,
as
yeah.
such. He's very keen on that, and he's had some decent success with the better players as such. So yeah, Phil Akers would be a good one. Yeah, we'll leave it at Phil.
No, thank you very much.